You've asked some questions about Trump's speeches lately and about the 2025 project, which is being put together by Trump supporters, but not just for Trump, rather for anybody Trump or Trump-like who could be elected in 2025. And, what on earth is um, I'm sorry, I'm trying to read as we go here. What on earth is going on with those projects? Just to do a big picture thing here, there are those of us who believe in democracy. We believe in the institutions of democracy. And those institutions at this point are very complicated. There are a lot of them. There are checks and balances. And I don't mean just like the big things of government. I mean the agencies and the bureaus and all the things that balance our, stabilize our government. But there are people on the right now who don't want that. They don't like democracy. They don't like the fact it treats everybody equally, which means that women can have jobs outside the home and they don't have to answer to their husbands, and they can decide when to have children. They don't like that there is now in the United States an emphasis on racial equality. They like the idea of there being racial hierarchies. And crucially, a number of them also don't like the idea of a secular society. They want to impose Christianity on the rest of us. And they've gone through all kinds of gyrations to make it sound as if all of those things are written in the Constitution, and they're not. They're just not. And, I'm not going to go into that right now because there's other stuff as well. But they are trying to overturn our democracy. They're trying to get rid of the system in which the laws protect us all equally and replace it with Christian nationalism, which is turning the country into a theocracy so that, white men have control over their wives and children, and certainly over people of color. And the thing that you will see in the Trump policies is an expression of that very strong government, because the Republicans after 1981 believed in a small government that stayed out of people's ways. Now the Trump Republicans, the MAGA Republicans, want a large government that forces the rest of us to behave in certain ways. So Trump and his people are not being quiet about this. They're boasting of it. They're coming out and they're talking about it, because they want to convince their base that they're part of this strong movement, and they want to make other people afraid and to feel as if they don't have any options going forward. So, for example, what you have heard is that Trump and his people have said that they are going to get rid of the nonpartisan civil service and only put people who support Trump into office, and they have to share his ideology. So that means that it's your local town clerk or your state secretary of state, or anybody who holds a political office needs to be loyal to Trump. Well, think about what that means. Think about what that looks like. That means that you would have no legal recourse. So nowadays, if I go to somebody and they discriminate against me based on the fact that they think I shouldn't be allowed to have a bank account, for example, I could sue over that. But you wouldn't be able to under those circumstances. And certainly if you're a person of color, good luck, but it's not just like, nobody escapes that. And if you don't get what I'm saying there, imagine, for example, being in Hungary, where Viktor Orban is a real beacon of light to these people. And Orban took a democracy and insisted that everybody had to be loyal first to his party and then to him. And, if you had a business and he wanted to give that to one of his cousins, you were invited to sell it at very low cost to him and get out with whatever you could, or it would simply get taken. And that, it didn't help necessarily that you were of his party or anything else. So long as it was something he wanted, you ended up losing it. So they've talked about doing that. They have talked most recently about politicizing the Department of Justice. And they're trying to argue that Biden politicized the Department of Justice against Trump and the January 6 rioters, and that is their way of giving themselves an excuse for trying to do the same thing to the Bidens and to people who have opposed Trump. Biden has deliberately kept every possible hand off of the Department of Justice. He even left in place, it's quite unusual, he left in place special I can't think of the word, not special prosecutor, it wasn't a prosecutor, special investigator, who was looking into Hunter Biden. That's David Weiss, and he was, he was appointed by Trump, and he's been in office for 5 years. And this is the person that the Republicans are trying to say was being pushed around by the Biden administration. And yet, behind closed doors last week, Weiss said to Republicans, no, they've always given me a free hand. So Trump has openly said that he is going to use the Justice Department against his enemies the same way that Russian oligarchs or Ukrainian oligarchs did against their enemies, and that means basically the state will become in the service of Trump. And then finally, they're talking, not finally, but one of the other things they're talking about doing is, of course, getting rid of any abortion rights, and rounding up about 10 million undocumented immigrants, people who've applied for asylum, and it is legal to apply for asylum in the United States. People who hold humanitarian visas, or people who were born to undocumented immigrants who, under our laws, have birthright citizenship. That is, if you're born here, you're a citizen of the United States. They want to get rid of that as well. And because that would be so difficult to deport 10 million people, they want to build large camps to put them in as they wait to be deported. And if anybody doesn't hear the echoes there of concentrating people into camps, at the same time that the former president is talking about vermin, that word vermin, that he intends to remove from America, you really better take a look at any genocide that suits your fancy, although people are pointing to the Nazis. That's the kind of language that people used in virtually any genocide. They start to refer to their enemies as bugs or as rodents. It's a historical pattern. Great historical pattern, huh? All right.